For this lesson, we're going to do frying. We'll fry some eggplant. The recipe calls it paned eggplant. Paned in Louisiana, particularly in South Louisiana, means coated with a breadcrumb coating and deep fried, or just fried in oil. Could be pan fried, but deep fried. So we're going to paned eggplant. A couple of things we're going to start with: a cutting board. I'm using a little small rubber shelf liner, which works nice for a mat. We'll put that underneath. You can be using a wet towel, a wet paper towel, or something like that. We'll grab an eggplant. And our peeler. So, a couple of different kind of peelers. This is just a normal potato, normal vegetable peeler. They make one that has little ridges on the inside of it. That's for soft-skinned vegetables. Works really good on eggplants. When that peeler is brand new, or if it's sharp, it'll peel an eggplant nicely. But after a while, for some reason, eggplants start to wear them out. You can see how it's starting to break a little bit. Just like when I showed you to do your carrot or your potato. You're going to rotate it as you take a strip. You're going to rotate it in your hand. There's no reason to sit there and try to remove each strip. It takes extra time. As you're peeling, just turn. Don't worry about that one you just peeled off. It'll come off. It'll fall off. On Saturday night, when you've got a line of tickets in front of you, you don't have time to take your time and make each one of them, peel each little piece off. Okay. Eggplant skins, there's really no edible use for them. So we're going to put them over here in our compostable straps and come back to our eggplant. Our knife. Notice my angle. It's not like this. If I do like this, I'm going to be flattening the edge out and be flattening the point out 15 degrees. One side, then the other. One side, then the other. This 5 or 6 times, all you need on either side. Now comes the easy part. Okay, none of it's really difficult. As you can tell, the eggplant starts to darken really fast, so you don't want to peel these ahead of time. You want to do them to order. Fingers curled in still. Take a nice little slice off the end. Now, using your ruler, look at a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch thick. We're going to cut discs. Restaurant service, you can do discs, you can do sticks, you can do half moons. I've cut them in cubes and used them as croutons in salads already. You can cut it in almost any shape you want. I can tell you, this is a very easy dish to do, a very good seller, a really good profit item. Doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of labor. What some people will do now, they'll take their eggplants and they'll sprinkle salt on them. They'll let them sit into a colander. Eggplants can be kind of bitter depending on the time of the year that you get them. Right now they're in season, so I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so now we're going to go into frying technique. Frying is immersing food in hot oil, surrounding it in hot oil in order to cook it. The results from deep fat frying will be nice, crispy outside, warm, juicy centers. You can pan fry, deep fry, any number of different ways. Today we're going to deep fry. So, what we're going to do is we're going to paned our eggplant. If you're not sure what paned means, it means basically fried, either deep fried or pan fried or shallow fried, but coated with breadcrumbs. We're going to use a standard breading procedure. Important to remember, standard breading procedure is to first coat your food in flour. We're going to use all-purpose flour. Then dip in egg wash. and then in whatever coating you want to use. And like I said, for penne, our coating is going to be breadcrumbs. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll start by peeling our eggplant. Let's get an eggplant. Let's tilt down. Hopefully you can see right there. We're going to use our peeler. Okay. Let's come this way so we're a little bit straighter with you. This is a nice big eggplant. We're going to use our peeler. Okay. Starting from one end, come all the way down. Don't worry about removing each strip that you peel off. In a restaurant situation, Saturday night, there's a line out the door and you've got a whole pile of tickets in front of you. You don't have time to do that. We're going to take our peelings off. This eggplant's got a little bit of brown on it, but it'll still work just fine. Okay. We're going to take and put this in our compostable scraps. Now we're going to cut. Steel, knife, 15 degrees, 2 fingers on the blade, other fingers wrapped around the handle. About 5 or 6 times on each side is all you need every time you pick up your knife. So first we're going to do is cut the end off. Don't throw that away. We can use these pieces later. You can make eggplant caponata. You can throw it in with your sauteed vegetables. We're going to cut straight down into discs. Those discs are going to be 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch thick. Get your ruler to see what that looks like. If you cut them too thick, they won't cook in the center. If you cut them too thin, you're not going to taste any eggplant. I'm not going to cook this whole eggplant today, as it's just demoing for you how to do it. So that's going to be more than enough. You can cut them in discs. You can cut them in half moons. You can cut in planks and then cut in sticks, the eggplant if you like. It makes a great appetizer. It's a very good seller in a restaurant. It's a very good profit item. It's easy to do, so it's easy to train on as well. Okay, so take your discs, put them on the side. Sometimes you'll have to sprinkle an eggplant with salt, and the reason you would do that is to draw some of the liquids out. The liquid in the center can sometimes be kind of bitter. Eggplants are in season right now, so we don't have to worry about that. I've got some flour. We're going to season with salt fairly liberally. We're going to season with black pepper fairly liberally, using a dry bowl, dry whisk mix. If you don't have mixing bowls, you can use any kind of bowl, anything that you can just dip into. Okay. That's our flour. Second part of our breading procedure are eggs. These are already beat. But you want to make sure your eggs are well beaten. For eggplant, there's not a whole lot of moisture on the inside. They'll stay crispy somewhat. So we're going to use whole eggs. It's something like frying fish, catfish, things like that. You use just egg whites and it'll stay a lot crispier. And then we also have breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs that you got are already seasoned, so you don't have to worry about those. However, if you're using unseasoned breadcrumbs, it's very easy to season them yourself. Salt and pepper, Italian seasoning, and Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. You can do a Southwestern and use some type of a chili powder or chipotle seasoning or something along that lines. Garlic. Granulated garlic tends to burn and give an off flavor though, so be careful if you're going to be deep frying or cooking anything at a high temperature. So, how to bread. First thing we're going to do is coat our eggplant discs in flour. For frying, dry hand, wet hand. This goes into dry ingredients. If you mix those hands up, you end up with big gigantic Frankenstein fingers before everything is done. Okay. Put that in your egg wash. Dip it, press it down quick. Don't get that hand drop wet. Flour. Coat really nice. What happens is that flour gets on there and is dry. This got a little bit of moisture, so it'll stick to it. When it gets into the egg, now you're mixing flour and a liquid together, it's glue. Eggs also just create a nice adhesiveness to it themselves. So you'll get something for your final coating to stick on, which is going to be breadcrumbs. Wet hand, dry hand, wet hand. Take your dry hand, pick and put some of the breadcrumbs up on the side of the eggplant like that, so that you have something to stick your fingers under and it doesn't get wet. You want to roll your eggplant in there. You don't want to pack it on, but you don't want it just to be light. Okay? Put that to the side. Dry hand, wet hand. Take your wet hand. Get it wet. Let it soak for a minute so that flour can absorb some of the liquid, some of the egg, make a nice glue so that bread or the breading on the outside, the crumbs will adhere nice. Okay? Wet hand into the dry. Dry hand into the wet. Underwater, under egg, I guess. Put a little bit of breadcrumb on here so you have something to hold to. Coat it with flour, with breadcrumbs, I'm sorry, and let's just roll. Okay. That one's nice. Let's do one more. Wet hand into the dry. Put some crumbs on the side. With our dry hand, throw some more on top. Keep rolling until it's well coated, and then roll it to get the sides. If you see a dry spot like that where we see flour and no breadcrumbs, fix it. Now that's not a problem anymore. Okay. Dry hand, wet hand. That goes right there. Let's move these over. I want to talk to you a little bit about the actual frying technique and oil. Okay, so here we are ready to start frying. Frying can be a very dangerous thing, so you have to be paying attention at all times. You can't let anything go. Always be looking at it, particularly when you're using a pot on top of a stove. Oil is flammable. It's very flammable. It's very difficult to put out once it does catch fire. So you need to be watching temperature, how high your flame is. A couple techniques, a couple things to do when you start. Different from pan broiling and sauteing, start with a cold pot. Okay, you can use a skillet with deep sides if you want. In this pot, it's maybe 4 inches tall. I've only got 1 inch of oil in it. Okay, you don't want to overfill. Do not fill to the top. Start with a cold pot. Put cold oil in and turn your fire on. Then don't leave it. Have whatever it is you need to fry ready to go, and a thermometer. For frying eggplant, most things you're going to want to fry at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. For frying eggplant, I like to do that at a little bit lower temperature at 325. It tends to cook the eggplant all the way through a little bit better. Have everything ready to go. This bowl with paper towels lined on the inside is what I'm going to be removing my product from the oil with. You can tell just by looking at what it's doing. When you see the oil, I can't capture it on the video, but you'll see little dots starting to shimmer. When you put your product, whoops, run away. When you put your product in, look and see how it bubbles. That's bubbling very fast. So what that's telling me is the oil is hot. I'm gonna turn the fire off. If it's going too fast, I'm gonna turn the fire off and I can remove my product and just let the oil cool down. surprising how fast that oil will cool down just on its own. If you're frying something that's cold, like if you have chicken strips or if you have potatoes or something that you're putting in that is cold, you want to start with it a little bit hotter than you would normally use, so that when you put that cold product in there, it's going to cool it down. So that looks pretty good. Let's put those in. Let's put another. Don't overcrowd the pot. Okay, you want a nice even bubbling going on. You don't need eruption. Eruption is not good. Okay, if by chance it starts smoking, if your oil is smoking, then it's too hot. Take your food out and turn the fire off. Okay, let it cool down. Okay, don't cover it unless it starts to flame. Then don't cover it. If by chance, outside chance, that oil does catch fire, cover the pot. Fire needs oil, it needs oxygen in order to continue. Covering that pot will quench that fire. Secondly, always have, if you have possible, have a fire extinguisher ready. Okay. See how it's bubbling now? Nice, small, even bubbles. That's exactly what we want. Okay. I'm going to turn my fire back on. Put it on medium so I can sustain that. If your fire is too low, then your food's going to absorb grease. If your fire is too high, it's going to burn on, it'll cook on the outside and not be cooked in the center, and then you risk the chance of a fire hazard. Okay, so let's let these go. I can tell you they smell good. I can smell the Italian seasonings that are in it. The thing that you never, ever, ever want to do is make oil come in contact with water. Hot oil come in contact with water. At bare minimum, it'll splatter and get on your skin and raise a blister. Worst case scenario, when water hits the oil, it'll atomize, meaning that it'll turn into a fine mist. It'll grab some oil molecules, come up to the air, and put a flame from the tabletop all the way up to your ceilings. Okay? That'll ruin your day. Okay? We'll gently be turning. Okay? Gently. You don't want to break the breading off. Okay? See how it's bubbling really slow, so I'm going to turn my fire up just a little bit. Remember, if you're using an electric stove, slide the pot off to the side, okay, if you need to cool it down some. The burners on an electric range take longer to cool down than just turning down the flame on a fire. This works really nice. You probably had some pieces of cauliflower left over. If you still do, go ahead and use those. You can dip them in flour. Just dip the flourette part in flour, dip it in egg wash, and dip the flourette part into breadcrumbs by holding the stem with your hand, and you can fry those too. They come out really nice. Blanched carrots come out really good. Green beans are good. Zucchini is great. It actually turns kind of sweet when it cooks. We're going to let these go for a few minutes and watch them. It looks a lot darker on the camera than it actually does in real life, so you're probably saying, take them out, they're done, but they're really not done yet. So I'm going to turn that fire up just to get them finishing up here, and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, so here we are back again. We went about another minute and a half, 2 minutes, and our eggplants are a nice GBD, golden brown and delicious. You want them, it's hard to describe the color. It's a little bit deeper than straw color, like maybe light golden brown, actually. So take them out immediately, put them onto drain. Let them drip as much as they can while they're over the oil. Put them into drain. put your next pieces in. Okay, while I've got a couple more pieces frying, I'll be keeping a close eye on those. They're going to be right next to me. Let's go over to our pan where we have them draining, and we'll get a plate to serve on. Once they hit on there, they can turn them over, let them drain on both sides. Okay. Then we're going to plate them up. We'll take, these happen to be different sizes. So let's kind of start with them and shingle them down, oops, in descending size. And there you go. I like to garnish with fresh grated Parmesan cheese or Romano. You can even use a little Asiago if you want. I like to put a little bit of that on the side. So that your guests can dip and give it some color. So what we have, a fried eggplant, okay? Penne eggplant, fried eggplant, a great dish. I can tell you back in about 10 years or so ago, we would sell a full eggplant to an order. They were medium size, they weren't giant, they were medium. We cut them in sticks. And at about 10 years ago, we sold them for $10 an order. On a Saturday night, I'd sell 20 to 25 orders, and I only sat about 30 people in the restaurant. So it's a good seller, easy dish to do. People like it, okay? Thank you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me.